Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Fed News, the August 6th, 2024 edition of your Fake Figure Wrestling News. Let's get started. So, of course, as you know, it's new and improved. Of course, now there's been a change. I've actually added a fourth development brand, the IWGP. Again, it's going to have 20 wrestlers as well. It's going to be part of that situation. So what's going to basically happen is 5 people from each of those 4 brands will be eligible for the draft into the next proceeding. 10. And then obviously 10 spots will open up at each one. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Which also means that 20 guys will now be fired from each brand and replaced with new wrestlers, not 15. So I will change that in the next week. In talks right now with the Ultimate brand are Phil LaFawn and Doug Furnace. However, just signed Alex Shelley, Ty Dillinger, Shannon Moore, and Jamal. Red Impact has been changed to just Impact. And former Impact stars have been drafted over to Ring of Honor or AEW, and IWGP has been created as a fourth development brand for WCW and WWF in the future. So here are the WWF champions right now. Rob Conway is a European. Light heavyweight is Juventud Guerrera. So this week we had Funaki defeat Steve Blackman by pinfall to advance into the finals, to the semifinals, excuse me. Andre the Giant defeats Val Venus by pinfall. Finlay defeats Sylvain, and Hulk Hogan defeats TJ Perkins by pinfall. The main event would see CM Punk, Cassius Ohno, Ric Flair, and Eddie Guerrero defeat the Undisputed Era by pinfall. However, on Heat, Nunzio and Funaki would end in a time limit draw. Nunzio was still actually technically part of the tournament. It would end in a time limit, therefore both have been eliminated from the tournament, which means Andre is now in the finals. And the Mexicools defeated Money Incorporated and Chris Masters by pinfall to keep their winning ways going. The main event would see Zack Ryder defeat The Miz and Razor Ramon to become the inaugural WWF Hardcore Champion. WCW, of course, the champions. This week, though, you had DDP and Bam Bam Bigelow defeat Tommy Dreamer and Nash Carter by pinfall. Kushida defeats Tony Nese. So DDP and Bam Bam Bigelow defeat Tommy Dreamer and Nash Carter by pinfall. Kushida defeats Tony Nese and Great Muta by pinfall. Test and Big Boss Man Kenzo Suzuki defeats Ryback, Michael Tarver, and Magnum TA by pinfall. And Mark Jindrak and Luther Reigns defeated Rich Swann and Cedric Alexander by pinfall. The main event would see Bill Goldberg become the number 1 contender again for the WCW Championship, defeating Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, and The Rock by pinfall after Big Boss Man interfered to cost The Rock, as well as Kurt Angle got sidetracked by Rhino. Over to Thunder, though, as Buff Bagwell finally debuted, defeating Conan by pinfall. Shelton Benjamin and Brian Pillman defeated Johnny and Mitch. D'Lo was not part of that. In the main event, we see Matt Morgan defeat Daniel Bryan to become the WCW Television Champion on Thunder. No show for NXT this week, nor ECW. But NWA did have their pay-per-view as Into the Fire took place. Perry Saturn would defeat Eric Young and Big Show by pinfall to win the NWA Television Championship. Ricky Steamboat defeats Jake Atlas, Drew Gulak, Sin Cara, Norman Smiley, and Tony Mamaluke by pinfall. The Usos would defeat Hillbilly Jim and Bob Orton to win the United States Tag Team titles of NWA, and the Freebirds defeated Too Cool by pinfall to win the NWA World Tag Team titles. The main event would see Alberto Del Rio defeat Cody Rhodes by pinfall to become the inaugural NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Over to AEW now this week, as a huge announcement happened. It was Fyter Fest. Samoa Joe would defeat Hangman Adam Page by submission to retain the International Championship. MJF would defeat Kenny Omega to be crowned the number 1 contender in the main event tonight match against Samoa Joe. Orange Cassidy and the Acclaim versus the House of Black ends in a time limit draw. Sammy Guevara defeats Dustin Rhodes by pinfall to win the AEW Continental Championship. And Swerve Scott defeats Hook by pinfall. Best Friends would go on to defeat Young Bucks and SCU by pinfall. Swerve, of course, will retain the FTW Championship as he is a double champion. And Samoa Joe remains a double champion as he also defeats MJF by submission to retain his title. Ring of Honor had no show this week, or had a small show, as Keith Lee defeats Taz by pinfall. John Silver defeat Wheeler Yuta by pinfall. And the main event was see Lance Archer defeat Pac by pinfall. Triple H didn't have a show this week, though. Impact, however, is being rebranded. So these people have all been drafted off to Ring of Honor and AEW. But they did have their first and only pay-per-view. And it was Destination X as SCU defeated Ortiz and Santana by pinfall. Dustin Rhodes would defeat Wardlow by pinfall to win the Continental title. Jurassic Express defeats Best Friends to win their tag team titles. And Kip Sabian defeats Ricky Starks by pinfall to retain the Grand Championship. The main event, though, would see Andrade defeat Brian Cage by pinfall. However, afterwards, Andrade would drop the Impact World Championship in the ring and leave, which would later be decided that he was going to be rebranding over. So Red Impact is no more. It'll just be Impact, and these belts will be over where Red Impact was taking place. So it was Red Impact, but now it's just Impact. It'll be cleared up in the next week. So UWF did not have a show this week, and World Council. Now, there was the tag belts originally down here. However, they have announced that the PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla Heavyweight Wrestling Tag Team titles will be part of the WWC in the future after the NWA United States tag team titles were sent over to NWA brand. That's all for this week. As always, feedback is welcomed, but I'll see you next week.